The galaxy was at a standstill, suspended in a delicate balance between peace and war. The Galactic Empire, once a beacon of order and progress, had become an oppressive regime, casting a shadow over the myriad systems under its control. It was during this tumultuous era that the seemingly insignificant death of a young human girl on the fringe planet of Orin became the catalyst for an unprecedented upheaval. Elena was her name, and her life had been as quiet and unassuming as the dusty village she called home. Yet, her death did not go unnoticed as it should have in the vast expanse of the Empire. Unknown to the High Command, Elena had unwittingly activated a dormant beacon with her final, desperate act of defiance. A beacon that had lain silent for centuries on the outskirts of the galactic boundary. On the ancient planet of Arcadia, hidden from the prying eyes of the Empire by nebulae and black holes, the beacon's signal was received. The planet, thought to be barren and lifeless, stirred from its long slumber. Deep beneath its cracked and weathered surface, gears turned, lights flickered on, and systems that had not operated since time immemorial hummed to life. The Arcadians, a race of advanced beings who had once roamed the stars but had retreated from the universe's affairs, were awoken. Among them was Theron, an Arcadian elder, whose role it had been to monitor the long-forgotten outposts of their once great civilization. The signal from the beacon filled the command center's screens, lines of code cascading like waterfalls as ancient satellites oriented themselves towards the source of the transmission. "It's a distress signal," Theron announced, his voice echoing in the chamber. The other Arcadians gathered around, their eyes reflecting the star maps and data streams that illuminated the dark room. "And it has been triggered by a death. A human's death," added Mira, a strategist whose wisdom was often sought in times of crisis. "The Empire," a younger Arcadian named Kale muttered, with a mix of fear and anger. "They have gone too far. We have ignored their expansion for too long, believing it did not concern us." The elders exchanged glances, an unspoken agreement forming among them. The Arcadians had been observers for centuries, their once mighty fleet a memory, preserved only in the annals of their vast libraries. But Elena's death, a seemingly small and isolated tragedy, had changed everything. "We must respond," Theron declared. "The ancient codes embedded within the beacon compel us to act when an innocent life calls out from the shadows of tyranny. But how? Our fleet is ancient, our technology forgotten even by us," Mira countered. Kale stepped forward, his eyes alight with a fire that had not been seen in an Arcadian for generations. "Then we shall learn again. We shall rekindle the fires of our forges and take to the stars as we once did. The Empire has not faced a force like ours for 1,000 years. We will remind them why the galaxy once looked to the Arcadians for guidance." The decision was made. Arcadia, silent for so long, would silent no more. As shipyards long dormant buzzed to life and ancient starships were restored, the galaxy watched unknowingly. A new player had entered the galactic stage, one that could alter the course of history. And so, the Arcadian fleet, powered by a cause as old as time itself, the fight for freedom, began to stir, ready to defend the innocent and punish the oppressors. The stars themselves seemed to watch in anticipation, the course of the galaxy forever altered by the cry of a human girl whose name would now be remembered not just on Orin, but across the cosmos. Thus began the resurgence of the ancient Arcadian fleet, a forgotten power reborn from the ashes of tragedy, guided by the echoes of a lost voice crying out for justice. The void of space around Arcadia was ablaze with activity, a stark contrast to centuries of silence. The ancient docks, vast metallic structures floating in the void, were teeming with Arcadians. Their hands, once used for art and science, now labored to resurrect the ships that had been icons of their power. As the first of the starships, the Eon Wing, hovered into the crisp light of the nearest star, it was a symbol of rebirth for the Arcadians, a people reborn from the ashes of their own isolation. Theron oversaw the progress from the command deck of the Eon Wing. The ship was an engineering marvel, equipped with quantum drives and energy shields that could deflect even the fiercest cosmic storms. Its hull, adorned with the glyphs of Arcadia, shimmered as it caught the light of distant stars. Below him, crews worked tirelessly, their spirits lifted by the resurgence of their once great civilization. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, the Galactic Empire took notice. Admiral Varric, a seasoned commander whose loyalty to the Empire was as unyielding as the hull of his flagship, received the reports of unusual activity in the uncharted sectors with skepticism. An ancient fleet rising from the ruins? Preposterous. Varric scoffed as he read the intelligence brief. Yet, the unease in his gut told him not to take the news lightly. He had climbed the ranks of the Empire's navy, facing rebels and outlaws, but the thought of a forgotten race rekindling their war machinery was unsettling. Back on Arcadia, Cale ventured into the depths of the planet, to the archives of old. There, protected by time and secrecy, lay the chronicles of Arcadian technologies and alliances, scripts untouched since their golden age. The dimly lit halls echoed with his footsteps as he activated the ancient holograms that sprung to life, narrating tales and treaties long forgotten. Among these records, he found references to the scifi, a race of beings known for their psychic abilities, once allies of the Arcadians in the days when the galaxy was a tapestry of collaboration and conflict. With a new sense of urgency, Cale knew that forging alliances was as crucial as arming battleships. If the Arcadians were to stand a chance against the Empire, they would need allies. Simultaneously, Mira orchestrated the tactical revival. She delved into strategic simulations, her mind racing through scenarios of space battles and blockade runoffs. Each simulation brought her closer to understanding the might of the Empire and the potential of their own resurrected fleet. She knew their first confrontation with the Empire would be critical, a demonstration of their regained strength and a testament to their technological prowess. As the Eon Wing conducted its test flights, darting through asteroid fields with agility unmatched by modern Imperial ships, word of the Arcadian resurgence spread like wildfire across the galaxy. Hidden networks of rebels and dissidents, oppressed under the Empire's rule, started to whisper in shadowed corners about the ancient race of protectors rising to challenge the reigning tyrants. On a remote outpost, cloaked in the darkness of an asteroid belt, a covert meeting took place. Representatives of various factions, their faces obscured and voices distorted, discussed the rumblings of an ancient power awakening. They spoke of the human girl, Elena, whose death had sparked this resurgence, becoming a symbol of resistance against the Empire. With the fleet nearing readiness and alliances beginning to form, the Arcadians prepared to unveil their power to the galaxy. The stage was set for a confrontation that would shake the very foundations of the Galactic Empire. A clash not just of fleets, but of ideologies and histories intertwined in the vast, starry expanse. The saga of resurgence was no longer a tale of the past. It was the imminent future. The nebula known as the Veil of Tenebris, a vast cloud of gas and dust, glowed eerily under the light of a nearby supernova. It was here that the Galactic Empire had set up a secretive research facility, hidden from prying eyes by the nebula's opaque curtains. Admiral Varric, suspecting the need for enhanced defenses, ordered an acceleration in the development of a new weapon system, one that could potentially neutralize the Arcadian technology before their fleet could fully mobilize. On Arcadia, Theron convened a council meeting under the ancient Assembly Dome, its ceiling a mosaic of star maps and cosmic events. The dome, once a place of learning and debate, now buzzed with strategic planning and war readiness. Around him, the best minds of Arcadia gathered, their faces illuminated by the soft glow of datapads and holographic displays. Reports confirm that the Empire is fortifying its positions along the Perseus Arm, Mira briefed, pointing to the flickering images of Imperial fleets amassing near strategic jump points. Their movements suggest they are preparing for a confrontation, possibly aware of our capabilities. Theron nodded solemnly. Then we must strike swiftly and disrupt their preparations. Our advantage lies in our technology and element of surprise. We cannot allow them to consolidate their forces. Cale, returning from his expedition to the archives of old, brought with him the promise of alliances. The scifi have agreed to meet. They remember our ancient bonds and seem prepared to renew them. Their psychic warriors could prove invaluable against the Empire's numbers. The Aeon Wing, now joined by several other restored Arcadian ships, formed the vanguard of their reassembled fleet. As the fleet assembled in the shadow of Arcadia's moons, the Arcadians tested their newly integrated systems. Stealth fields that could render their ships nearly invisible, and energy cannons that pulsed with the power to rend the fabric of space itself. Simultaneously, whispers of the Arcadian resurgence reached the far corners of the galaxy, inspiring uprisings and rebellions on multiple planets under the Empire's grip. These insurrections were not yet coordinated, but they drew valuable resources and attention away from the Arcadian threat, spreading the Empire thin across multiple fronts. Admiral Varric, aboard his flagship Imperator's Wrath, received disturbing updates. Rebellions have erupted on Cigaris III and Valorum. Our forces are stretched thin, and now these rumors of an ancient fleet have sparked new hope among the insurgents, reported his chief strategist. Focus our efforts on the Arcadian threat, Varric commanded, his voice like steel. Bring the Tenebrous weapon online. If these Arcadians wish to challenge the might of the Empire, we will show them the error of their resurgence. Back on Arcadia, the final preparations were underway. The fleet, now dozens strong, began its silent procession towards the Vale of Tenebris. Theron, standing at the helm of the Aeon Wing, looked out into the void, his heart heavy with the weight of command. For Elena, for Arcadia, for all those who suffer under tyranny, he murmured as the fleet slipped into the stealth mode, disappearing into the cosmic sea like ghosts. As the Arcadian fleet neared the Empire's research facility, the stage was set for a battle that would not only test their restored might, but also determine the future of freedom in the galaxy. With each ship that moved in formation, the Arcadians were not just marching towards a confrontation. They were moving towards a new era, driven by the echoes of their ancient vows and the very real cries of those oppressed across the galaxy. As the Arcadian fleet neared the Vale of Tenebris, the spectral glow of the nebula masked their approach, the stealth technology of their ships making them mere whispers against the cosmic winds. Admiral Varric, aboard the Imperator's Wrath, monitored the fluctuating energy signatures, his instinct warning him of impending conflict. The research facility, a sprawling complex of modules and antennae, clung to a massive asteroid, its structures pulsating with the energy of the new weapon, codenamed Stellar Maw. Engineers and scientists worked feverishly to calibrate the weapon systems, designed to create a localized black hole, capable of swallowing entire fleets in one fell swoop. Meanwhile, the Solari emissaries arrived on Arcadia, their forms ethereal and shifting, like mirages crafted from starlight. They met with Theron and Mira in the assembly dome, where a holographic model of the Empire's facility floated between them. "We have seen your resolve and share your cause," the Solari leader, Valus, spoke, his voice a harmonic frequency that resonated softly in the chamber. "Our psychics can cloak your approach further, blending your fleet's energy signature with the cosmic background." Grateful, Theron accepted their offer, knowing that this alliance would bolster their chances of a successful first strike. The plan was set. While the Silari would mask their approach, a vanguard of Arcadian ships would disable the facility's defenses, allowing their main force to disable the Stellar Maw. As the Arcadian fleet resumed their approach, the Aeon Wing at the forefront, the space around them began to warp subtly, an effect of the Sila'ari's psychic prowess. This psychic veil was so finely tuned that even the most sophisticated sensors could not distinguish their ships from the surrounding cosmic anomalies. On the Empire's facility, alarms blared suddenly, the sensors catching a brief fluctuation before going silent. "Report!" Varric barked, his eyes narrowing. "Minor energy flux within acceptable parameters," one of the technicians reported, dismissing the blip. Varric, however, remained uneasy. His years of command had honed his instincts to a razor's edge. In the control room of the Aeon Wing, Mira coordinated the attack sequences. "All ships, engage cloaking rhythms. Prepare for synchronous strike on my mark. The Arcadian ships, silent and invisible, drew closer. As they breached the outer perimeter of the facility, their weapons charged with an eerie silence, ready to unleash hell on the unsuspecting Imperial defenses. With a nod from Theron, Mira gave the signal. Arcadian ships materialized from the void, their weapon systems firing in a beautiful, deadly dance. Energy beams sliced through the facility's shields, which flickered and waned under the sudden onslaught. Admiral Varric, realizing the trap too late, ordered a counterattack, but the chaos had already taken hold. Explosions rocked the facility as its outer defenses crumbled, and the Imperator's wrath moved to engage. The battle raged, a ballet of energy and evasion. The Arcadian ships, smaller and more agile, danced around the heavier Empire cruisers, their attacks precise and devastating. Meanwhile, teams of Arcadian soldiers boarded the facility, fighting their way towards the core of the stellar maw. Inside the facility, the battle was as fierce as the one raging in space. In the aftermath of the skirmish at the Vale of Tenebris, the galaxy buzzed with the news of the Arcadian strike. Across the Galactic Empire, communications channels lit up with reports and analyses, while rebel cells and oppressed planets drew hope from the Arcadian success. The balance of power, so long tipped in favor of the Empire, began to wobble, and with it the confidence of its subjects. Admiral Varric, aboard the Imperator's Wrath, brooded over the loss. The destruction of the stellar maw was a significant setback, and his superiors in the Imperial Command were not pleased. His ship limped back to the nearest Imperial dockyard for repairs, its once imposing silhouette scarred by the encounter. In his private quarters, Varric convened a holographic meeting with his top officers and strategists. "We underestimated them," Varric admitted, his voice gruff. "Their technology, their tactics, and their will to fight. We will not make the same mistake twice. I want every available resource dedicated to understanding their technology. Capture one of their ships if you must." On Arcadia, the mood was one of cautious optimism. The victory was celebrated, but Theron and his council knew well that one successful strike did not win a war. Plans for further sorties were drawn up, and Mira spent long hours with the Silari, integrating their psychic stealth techniques with Arcadian technology. Kale returned to the archives of old, this time to delve deeper into potential weaknesses of the Empire. Among the dusty tomes and ancient data slates, he uncovered references to the Empire's central data nexus, a hub that processed and disseminated information throughout the vast territories it controlled. If we could disrupt their communications, even temporarily, it would sow confusion and delay their responses, Kale proposed during a strategy session. Theron considered this new angle. Prepare a team. If we can turn their network against them, we will have gained another edge. Meanwhile, on the fringes of Imperial space, covert meetings between various resistance leaders and Arcadian emissaries took place. These were held on neutral planets, in abandoned stations, wherever they could meet away from the watchful eyes of the Empire. Each meeting was a thread in a growing tapestry of alliances, each agreement a stitch binding their common cause. As these alliances solidified, a diverse fleet began to form, not just of Arcadian ships, but of vessels from multiple systems, all united under the banner of resistance. Among them, defectors from the Empire who brought with them invaluable intelligence and first-hand knowledge of Imperial tactics. On one such mission, a stealth team led by an Arcadian commander and a former Imperial pilot approached an Imperial outpost. Their goal was simple yet audacious: infiltrate the outpost, install a virus in their communication arrays, and escape without leaving a trace. The operation was fraught with risk. The outpost was heavily guarded, and one false move could lead to capture or death. Cloaked in the shadows of night, the team disembarked from their small, unassuming craft and made their way toward the outpost's underbelly. Inside, they navigated the labyrinth of corridors and access tunnels, avoiding patrols and security cameras. The former Imperial pilot, now a turncoat, the impact of the Arcadian-led sabotage rippled through the Galactic Empire's networks, a silent storm that disrupted communications and sowed discord among its ranks. As systems faltered and messages went astray, The Empire's once unshakable grip on its territories began to loosen. Panic spread as fast as the disruption, fueling the fires of rebellion across countless worlds. On Arcadia, the Council convened under the resolute gaze of Theron. The command center was abuzz with reports from across the galaxy, each one a testament to the efficacy of their recent operations. "The network virus is more effective than we anticipated," Kale announced, his face lit by the soft glow of the data screens. "It's not just disabling communications, it's undermining Imperial authority. Planets are refusing to comply with orders, believing them to be errors or forgeries." Mira, who had been coordinating the military efforts, added, "This chaos has provided us the perfect cover to build our forces. We have new recruits joining from the affected systems, and several Imperial officers have defected." Theron nodded, aware that each moment of disarray for the Empire was a precious opportunity for them. "We must use this time wisely, prepare for a major offensive. If we can push them back in key sectors, we might encourage more planets to join our cause." Meanwhile, Admiral Varric faced the daunting task of restoring order. His ship, now repaired, was a hub of frenetic activity. He paced the bridge, issuing orders to his subordinates. "Trace the source of these disruptions. I want a list of every affected outpost and a detailed report on our remaining operational capabilities," he barked. The counter-efforts of the Empire were met with mixed success. While some systems were gradually restored, others remained in disarray, their infrastructures too deeply infiltrated by the Arcadian virus. The morale among the troops was at an all-time low, their faith in the Empire's invincibility shattered. In a bold move, Theron launched a series of strikes against key Imperial bases, utilizing both the might of the Arcadian fleet and the newly allied forces. The battles were fierce, with heavy casualties on both sides, but the tide was clearly turning in favor of the resistance. Each victory served to inspire further uprisings, as oppressed populations rose up, bolstered by the support of the Arcadian alliance. Amid the escalating conflict, a covert team led by Mira targeted a critical Imperial war factory on the planet Dragon. The factory was a linchpin in the Empire's supply chain, producing a significant portion of its war machinery. Infiltrating the facility, Mira and her team planted explosive charges, fighting their way through security droids and Imperial guards. As they made their escape, the charges detonated, setting the sky ablaze with fiery explosions. The destruction of the war factory dealt a crippling blow to the Empire's logistical capabilities, severely hampering their ability to sustain their military efforts. Back on Arcadia, the success of the mission was celebrated, but Theron remained focused on the larger picture.